at this incredible speed. For Hardston, the only explanation is that her human brain is using a very human skill.
We seem to heap a lot of praise on people's calculating ability, but take for granted all sorts of mental abilities that are absolutely intuitive.
Intuition sounds more like magic than science. But Hardston believes it is a specific skill displayed by experts in all fields, and it can be explained. By training, William Hardston is a psychologist and a former United Kingdom chess champion.
As bad as I feared.
But today, he's going back to square one as a trainee firefighter. Hardston plans to compare his novice skills with those of expert firefighter Lee Cork.
Do you want to take a quick look at the smoke that's coming out there at the moment? I'm going in. You're going into there, yeah?
They're up against a terrifying opponent. This is Flashover, a major killer of firefighters.
My wife always said I'd go to hell.
He has no previous experience, but he thinks he has a logical plan of attack. He aims to control one side of the fire, then quickly switch to the other.
Okay, left. It's going now, right?
But logic isn't working. The fire is making moves he can't predict.
Oh, it's coming back. Let me.
What I was doing was trying to apply rules and stopping and thinking. I always had to stop and see what the effect of what I was doing was.
Too much water. Hardston's achieved nothing but a cloud of scalding steam. He's still trying to think his way out of trouble, and now he's suffering from paralysis by analysis.
Oh, we've lost our visibility altogether, haven't we? Slow down, slow down.
For Hardston, it's been a harsh lesson in the wrong way to make decisions. Firefighter Cork shows him how it's done.
Nice and high gas cooling.
For an expert, flame in the overhead smoke is a typical danger sign. He reacts instantly by cooling the flames, and he doesn't have to think about it.
When you've done something often enough, you don't have to think about how to do it. But even more important, when you've done it often enough, you sense what the result of it is going to be, and you're ready with the next move.
Intuition turns out to be a learned skill. It means trusting your experience and the ability to recognize and react to familiar patterns. And surprising as it may seem, chess players rely more heavily on intuition than calculation.
You don't calculate from where you are. You don't look at a list of possibilities. You sense what's the right move, and you don't have to think about how to do it.
An amateur wastes precious time thinking through his possible moves. But a grandmaster can make the move without thinking.
I have to trust my instinct, my intuition. And it's basically pattern recognition. It's each and every position, what's my first instinct, what's the best move. It's almost like guessing, but it's like guessing intelligently, kind of, basing it on prior games and experiences.
Susan guesses her opponent's moves before he makes them. For Preston Lasker, it feels like she's reading his mind.
It was amazing. Like playing against like Michael Jordan or some big sports star. She definitely has all the pattern recognition down to where she doesn't have, I think I have to think a lot more than she does. You know, she pretty much, it's all instinct.
It's pattern recognition that separates the best from the rest. Susan is so good at it that it's possible her brain has a dedicated pattern processor. With modern scanning techniques, it might even be possible to identify it. But there's a problem. The brain is so complex that to find and identify any specific structure is a daunting task. But scientists are sometimes given clues, telling them where to look for specific functions. And it happens when the brain goes wrong. As an assistant editor at the Times, Mary Ann Siegert is at the top of British journalism. And yet she can't recognise some of the most familiar patterns of all.
Every week I write a column for Times 2, and there's a whole bank of people who sub-edit. And the sub will come in with one of these, which is a proof of the column. And I'll say, oh, thanks very much, and I'll read it through, and I'll look for mistakes, and I'll take the proof back to the sub's desk, and I'll think, who was it who gave it to me? I don't remember.
Mary Ann suffers from prosopagnosia, commonly known as face blindness. Even finding a close colleague can be next to impossible.
They sort of tiptoeing around surreptitiously, looking at everybody's screen to see if they've got my column up on the screen.
Mary Ann knows she's looking at a face. She just doesn't recognise it as someone she knows.
I wish I knew how people recognised other people, because it would make it so much easier for me. But it's as hard for me to understand as it would be for a colourblind person. If somebody said to them, well, can't you see the difference between red and green? That's red, that's green.
As many as 1 in 50 people have some degree of face blindness. But Mary Ann was unaware of her condition for years, because she has learned to identify people in other ways.
You're right. Thanks.
Psychologist David Wilkinson wants to know more.
So what coping strategies do you use?
Oh goodness, I rely a lot on hair, but that can go horribly wrong when people have a haircut or no hair, or no hair,
Yeah.
Exactly. Voice,
Right.
gait, the way people stand or walk,
Yeah.
I think I use. Glasses or any sort of facial hair I find very useful.
Yeah, you seem more keen to focus in on local detail, on parts of the face, and so you're using a different strategy.
Well, that's what I use to compensate for the fact that I can't recognise the face.
Right.
So I think, right, there must be some feature on the face that I can compare to see which is alike. I mean, I've now worked out you've got a bump here in your nose,
Yeah.
so that will help me next time I see you, maybe. Yeah.
To test Mary Ann's strategy, we've asked her to take her daughter skating and to look out for any familiar faces.
No, see, I wouldn't have a clue if I were looking at the sea of faces.
But what Mary Ann doesn't know is that one of these faces belongs to Dr. David Wilkinson, with whom she's just spent the whole afternoon. And with him is Laura, a secretary from Mary Ann's office, whom she sees every day. At a distance, Mary Ann can't pick up on any useful details. Maybe if they go a bit closer.
It's not mother and daughters, is it? No.
Wilkinson tries taking his hat off. Finally, he resorts to a bit of slapstick psychology.
Oh, God. You're right. I don't believe it. This is a guy called Dave, who I spent most of the afternoon with, and this is Evie. The funny thing is, I did say, if I thought... Who's this? It's not Laura. And even then, it was only when your face was right up against mine, and I spotted your sort of, bobble on your nose.
Brain scans of people like Mary Ann have revealed damage to the specific structure that's responsible for face recognition. The so-called fusiform face area is at the back of the brain, where first processing of information from the eyes takes place. In a normal brain, it rapidly assesses any new face for its distinctive proportions of eyes, nose and mouth.